I never believed in bad houses. Not until I spent one night in the Miller place. I'm a photographer. I do urban exploration content, abandoned malls, shut down asylums, that kind of thing. My buddy Dave told me about a farmhouse out past the county line, empty since 1987, when the family who lived there just vanished. No note, no struggle. Their dinner was still on the table when the sheriff found it, plates crusted with mold, chairs pushed back like everyone got up at once. I drove out there on a Friday, just before sunset. The house sat back from the road behind a wall of dead corn stalks, its porch sagging like a tired mouth. I told myself it was just old wood settling. I told myself a lot of things that night. The front door wasn't locked. It never is with these places. Inside, the air was thick, that wet, mineral smell of rot and rain-soaked plaster. My flashlight caught dust, hanging in the air like it hadn't moved in decades. I found the dining room first. The table was still set. 5 plates, 5 chairs, and in the center, a candle burned down to a puddle of black wax, like it had been lit and left to die alone. I told myself I'd just get a few shots and leave. I've said that before in a dozen places just like this one. But something about the silence in that house was different. It wasn't empty silence. It was listening silence. Upstairs, I found the kids' room. 2 twin beds, still made, a music box on the dresser with its lid cracked open. I shouldn't have touched it. I know that now. But I turned the little key, and a broken lullaby limped out into the dark. Notes dragging like they didn't want to come out at all. That's when I heard footsteps downstairs. Slow, deliberate. Like someone was climbing stairs I hadn't taken. I froze at the top of the staircase, camera light shaking in my hand. Down in the front hall, the candle in the dining room, the one that had been burned to a puddle of wax for 40 years, was lit. A small orange flame flickering in the pitch black, throwing shadows against the peeling wallpaper. And around that table, in 5 chairs, sat 5 shapes. Not moving, not breathing, just sitting. The way you'd sit down to dinner with your family, except their heads were tilted at angles necks don't bend to. And their eyes, all 5 pairs, were already looking up the staircase at me. The music box kept playing behind me in the dark room, even though I hadn't wound it that much. I don't remember running. I remember waking up in my truck at the end of the driveway, engine running, doors locked, no memory of getting there. My camera was gone. Dave says he still has the last photo it took, texted to his phone at 11:47 that night. The only file that ever synced before the SD card corrupted. It's a picture of the dining room. 6 chairs. I only ever saw 5. I took the night security job at the old Blackwood mill because it paid double and because nobody else wanted it. 6 floors of dead machinery, silent since the fire in '96 that killed 11 workers trapped on the 7th floor when the stairwell collapsed. The owners never rebuilt. They just fenced it off. And 40 years later, some development company hired rent-a-cops like me to keep out looters until the demolition permits cleared. My job was simple. Walk the perimeter every 2 hours, sign the log, go home. Floors 2 through 6? Fine. I was told never to go up to 7. The stairs up there were condemned, bricked over, actually, sealed with cinder block sometime in the 90s. Nobody had been up there in decades. That was the rule, and for the first 3 weeks, I followed it just fine. Then I started hearing the looms. Not machinery running. These things had been dead and gutted for parts years ago. I mean the sound of a loom. That rhythmic clack, 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 fabric being pulled taut over and over, coming from directly above the 6th floor ceiling. Every night around 2 a.m., like clockwork. I told myself it was pipes. Old buildings talk. I've heard every excuse there is, and I made myself believe each one. On night 22, I found new brick dust at the base of the sealed stairwell. Fresh. Like something had been scraping at the mortar from the other side. I should have called it in and gone home. Instead, I climbed. There was a gap now, just wide enough for a man to fit through if he turned sideways. The cinder block crumbled like it had been chewed rather than broken. The clack, clack, clack got louder as I climbed, and under it, something else. Voices. Not words. Just the low murmur of people talking over their work, the way a factory floor sounds when nobody's really talking to anybody, just working together forever. Floor 7 wasn't burned like the record said. It was whole. Looms stood in perfect rows, thread strung taut between them, moving, actually moving. Though every hand at every station was still, backs bent over machines, faces turned down toward the fabric. 11 of them. I counted 11, because I already knew the number from the file. Nobody looked up. Nobody needed to. One of them was closest to the stairwell gap. A woman, grey dress, sleeves rolled to the elbow, hands moving over an empty loom with no thread at all, just the motion, over and over. And when I stepped back, my boot scraped the brick dust on the floor, and every single figure on that floor stopped moving at once. The silence afterward was worse than the sound had ever been. Then, slow, all 11 heads turned toward me. Not their bodies, just their heads, past what a neck should allow, like dolls twisted the wrong way on their stands. I don't remember the climb down. I remember the foreman finding me at dawn, sitting against the sealed stairwell. Sealed again, solid cinder block, no gap, mortar dry and old, like it had never been touched. I quit that night. I never went back for my final paycheck, but sometimes, late at night in my apartment 3 towns over, I still hear it. Clack, clack, clack. St. Agnes closed in 2003 after the state pulled its license. Understaffing, they said publicly. What they didn't say publicly was the real reason. The thing that happened on the psychiatric ward, floor 3, room 314, in the winter of 1979. I only found out because my grandmother worked the night shift there, and some things she told me before she passed I never repeated to anyone. Until now. I went in with 3 friends, on a dare, the kind of dumb thing you do at 22 with a case of beer and a flashlight app. The hospital had been gutted by scrappers, wiring torn out, most of the beds gone. But room 314 was untouched, locked even, with a newer padlock than anything else in the building, like someone still came back to check on it. We broke the lock. I wish to God we hadn't. Inside was a single hospital bed, restraints still buckled to the frame, leather cracked with age. The walls were covered, every inch, in scratches. Not words, just lines, thousands of them, gouged into plaster and, in places, straight into brick, like someone had clawed at that room for years without ever breaking through. My friend Marcus laughed it off, said some patient really hated their room. He sat on the edge of the bed to get a selfie for the group chat. That's when the restraints on the opposite side, the ones nobody was near, snapped shut on their own, buckled tight around empty air, like they'd caught something invisible mid-struggle. We ran. straight down 3 flights of condemned stairwell in the pitch dark, and I remember the sound behind us the whole way down. Not footsteps, but that dragging squeak of a hospital bed's wheels rolling across old tile, gaining on us floor by floor, though there was no way, physically no way, a bed could take those stairs. We made it out. Marcus didn't laugh again the rest of that night, and none of us have been back. 3 weeks later, Marcus started waking up with fresh scratch marks on his forearms. Not deep, just enough to leave thin red lines, always in 3s, always while he slept alone with the door locked. He moved out of that apartment within the month. He still won't tell me if they stopped. My grandmother once told me the real reason St. Agnes lost its license wasn't understaffing. It was that a nurse, alone on the night shift in January 1979, went to check on the patient in 314 and was never seen again. The room was locked from the inside. The patient was still in his restraints, fast asleep, when they finally broke the door down. Nobody ever explained where the nurse went. They just added a second lock to that door and told the staff never to go in there alone. I think about that some nights, when I hear something scrape against my bedroom wall in the dark, and I remind myself, it's an old house. It's always just an old house, until it isn't.